Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Well, first thing we're going to talk about, several people have asked, what's going on with the 6C33C? Here it is. Been gathering some parts, been doing a little research, and honestly been trying to just find some time to get back into this. I want to wrap this up. And I do have the stuff to build the other monoblock, but I need to get this one working the way I want it to work before I build the second one. So, I talked to the folks at Thermionic Labs, which you know I've partnered with them on some stuff in the past, and I got a couple of chokes from them to try that are actual plate chokes instead of power supply chokes. So, that's the first thing we're going to try. Might need to use the choke in the combination with a plate load resistor. I got to do some experimenting with that, and honestly, that's such a time sink when you get into some of this, to me, is trial and error stuff, and that's how I learn. And I know a lot of you folks, or not maybe a lot, but some of you folks that watch the channel are, college educated engineers that do all this stuff with the math and calculations and all that stuff, and I do some of that, look at load lines and that sort of thing, but a lot of it is still just trial and error for me, and that's kind of how I learn. And this whole plate choke thing is new to me, and so I'm trying to understand how all of that works so I can explain it to you guys. And once I figure that out, I'll feel more comfortable doing videos about what's going on with this amp. I also stumbled across a good deal on a pair of real new old stock D3As, which are almost unobtainium. And these are the Siemens ones, the really good ones. I took a chance and ordered them from some guy in, I think, Estonia or something that, hey, I think most people are honest, but you just never know when you're buying stuff from some place like that in the world that's not, yeah, you know what I'm saying. And so they weren't cheap, but they weren't stupid expensive like some of them are. And so if we end up having to use these D3A tubes to make this work, we just do. And if these cheaper Russian tubes just don't work out or they got too much distortion, they just do. And we were trying to do this on a budget, but I'm starting to learn that, like a lot of things in life, when you try to do things too cheap or too low budget, they just really don't perform like we'd hope they would. And that's the kind of the second part of this video, is with these amplifiers and dealing with tubes and stuff. When you're trying to do things on a budget, you can build a good sounding amp. And I mean, in the scheme of things, they can sound really nice. An example is that 5751 EL34 amp that I sell and build. And at that price point, and for what it is, especially when it has the ISO Tango, the little ones, the 12S's in it, it's a really nice sounding little amp. But then when I compare it to a 300B amp that has $1,000 a pair of tubes and, $1,000 worth of output transformers and $1,000 worth of this and that, ends up being a $5,000 or $6,000 amp, even in a DIY kind of setting. Yeah, it just sounds better. And that shouldn't be a shock to anybody. And I know there's this whole giant killer thing that everybody's looking for, that, I want to find the $100 tube that sounds as good as the $1,000 tube, or I want to find the $150 chip amp that sounds like a $5,000 amp. That's just not reality, guys. I mean, I know people want to think that, and I'm stumbling onto some stuff that sometimes does kind of pan out. Like, I'm really shocked at how good that EAR 834 clone phono stage sounds compared to multi-$1,000 phono preamps. I mean, it hits so far above its price point, and I've showed y'all twice in 2 different video series how to build one with the board separated, then the ones I'm doing now with the boards all in one, the latest video series. So you can build them for yourself, but yeah, that's just a monster change in what a turntable can sound like. And so, I've sat down and listened to my, latest iteration of my 300B amp, and that's where I'm hearing all this stuff, especially with those quad S2 speakers that I wasn't hearing before. And before I had those quad speakers, I didn't hear a lot of difference between the EL34 amp and my 300B amp. And some of these other speakers that I've got, and I know I need to do a review on the Deckware speakers that I got. And I'm not sure that they're really going to work out for my room, which is the whole other thing that's part of this equation, is finding stuff that works for your room. But yeah, once you kind of hit that magic point, you start hearing stuff that you didn't hear before. And stuff that all sounded the same starts sounding different. And I know I was defensive in the past when people would say things like, well, your system's just not revealing enough to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. I know you don't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. And you get defensive about it. It's like, hey, now, my system doesn't suck, but it's not that it sucks. It's just that it isn't revealing enough to really hear some of this stuff. And I'll kind of go backwards a little bit in my learning history of all of this audio stuff. When I first really jumped back into this, I had my little Noob Sound 6P1, and I did those mods that I show y'all how to do, and I had my little Clips RP600M speakers, and I was happy. And I had an old Kenwood CD DAC, and the first thing that I upgraded was the CD DAC. And I bought a Yamaha CD300S or an S300, something like that. It was a $350 CD DAC. And wow, what a huge difference in the sound that I was getting from my CDs with that DAC versus this old Kenwood that I had back from the 90s. And it was a budget DAC in its day. And obviously had older DAC technology and all that kind of stuff. So that's when I learned how important the source was. And when I first started tiptoeing or experimenting with vinyl, I picked up a little Techniques belt drive, a BL2 I think it was, turntable, and it came with it was a pretty worn out cartridge. But I was like, okay, let me get a little phono stage off Amazon, so I've got a little preamp, and saw one that got great reviews on Amazon that was $79. And these people were, oh man, it sounds great. This little box works wonderful. And I hooked it up, and I was just, wow, this sounds like crap. And especially comparing it to the digital CD deck, the CD deck just blew it away. And that was kind of my experience even back in the 80s. When I first got a CD deck, it just sounded so much better than my vinyl at that time did. And I think I was using a Kenwood integrated amp that had just a phono, connection on it. I wasn't using an external phono stage. I didn't even know that existed. So anyway, I was listening to that, and I just thought to myself, there's no way that people get this excited about vinyl if it sounds this crappy. There's got to be, I'm missing something here, right? And that's when I decided to order one of those EAR clone boards or little kits from eBay. And at the same time, I read up and read really good things about Darlington Labs phono stages. And they were like 6 weeks, I think, wait time on getting one of those. So, I ordered one of those. I think it was just the moving magnet one. It was a $500, $600 phono stage. And then this EAR came in, and I got it built. And when I first hooked it up, I was like, wow, that sounds totally different than that little $80 Amazon box. Listen to all that bass and just the richness and everything that was coming out of it. And I wasn't really sure, though, is that accurate? Is that what I'm supposed to be hearing? And about that same time, the Darlington Labs one came, so I hooked it up, same thing. And that's when I realized, okay, that's what a correct RIA curve correction is supposed to sound like. And so the Darlington Labs one didn't have quite enough gain to really work with my tube stuff. And I emailed the guy and was talking to him about it and told him what I had. And he was like, yeah, these EARs have, 6 to 8 more dBs of gain. And I can understand. And I got 5 people that want to buy that preamp. If you're not happy with it or you don't need it, just mail it back to you. I'm happy to give you your money back, which is the same thing that I do. If somebody's not happy with what I sell them, send it back. There's other people that do want it, And so, anyway, that was part of my discovering of good vinyl. And then I got that VM540ml Microline Stylus cartridge to upgrade that old worn out, whatever one was in there. I can't even remember what it was. And that was just another like, whoa, listen to that. And that's when my vinyl went past what my CD deck sounded like. And then I got into the moving coil stuff with a step-up transformer and started playing with different step-up transformers. And that's when my vinyl just really started sounding great. But if I just stuck with that little $80 box thinking that's some giant killer, I would have never got a good vinyl system. And so you have to be really careful what you hear people praising in these reviews and stuff, especially, like Amazon reviews and stuff, because you don't know what the rest of their system is. And the same thing with like that chip amps that even with the Sparco's op amps, they sound good, but do they sound anything like a good tube amp? Not at all. But if that's what you're used to, then that does sound good. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to insult people either, because if you're happy with what you're hearing and what you're listening to, that's great. Enjoy it. And I'm not telling you, that what you have is junk, because to you, it makes you happy and you enjoy it. But now I'm at the point where I know my 300B amp with those EML tubes and my phono stage with my moving coil cartridge and this new 100C turntable and all that stuff, for the price range that I'm in, I know this stuff sounds really good. And another comment somebody posted on a video was like, they were concerned that, do you even listen to music and enjoy it, or are you just constantly listening to your system? And I feel like that once you know and you've gone through that process of saying, yes, this is good, and I know I'm at a good point, then I can stop listening to the system and just enjoy the music and enjoy the 3Dness and the soundstage and just all of that stuff, and just really just close my eyes and enjoy it. And so, yes, it's not just about listening to the system, but I think it's fun to try to get your system to a point where you can trust it. And that's what I'm fighting with the streaming right now, is I know this isn't working right. And people wouldn't be listening to streaming if this was as good as it gets. And so I don't want to have like this really nice vinyl setup, and I know that the digital stuff just isn't up to speed. And I'm trying to figure that out. And I'm not an engineer that understands, all the nuances of this digital technology, but I know what sounds good. And so that's the point where I'm at. I finally got my CD deck hooked up to this new Centaurus DAC, and I can hear something really good. And now I'm at the point where if I got something on a CD and I don't have it on vinyl, I'll pop the CD in and have no problem listening to it. I've been buying stuff off Bandcamp, burning it on a CD and putting it in the CD deck and enjoying all kinds of cool new music. And yeah, it's another way of enjoying music, just like the reel-to-reel stuff is. That's just another way of getting the source into your system. So anyway, that's kind of rambling on today, but that's what we do on the Monday Monologue, right? And also this week I've spent 3 days at the Tampa audio show. So this has been recorded and uploaded like before I went down to the show. So I can't talk about the show because I haven't been there yet. But have a feeling we're going to have some good content come out of that show. And that'll probably be on next week when I get back in town. So that's going to be interesting to see if I learn some stuff about streaming down on that trip, talking to folks down there. And I've also got that reclocker coming, that Singzer, and that's going to be interesting to see how that works and just see if I can put together something that's easy to work with, that I'm not looking at some little tiny screen on my phone trying to navigate, and that is another way to get music into my 300B amp that sounds really good. So the other small thing is I decided to add memberships to my channel. It's just another way if you want to support the channel. I know some of you folks don't have Patreon, and so this is another way if you wanted to support the channel that you can, for $5 a month, you can be a member of the channel. And you get a little badge that goes by your name when you make comments. I'm going to try to come up with some cute little emojis that you can use in your chat. I know some people have fun with that kind of stuff. The other thing that I'm thinking I'm going to be doing is doing some members only content. And before y'all freak out, you're like, oh, you're gating your content. It's not going to be anything related to DIY audio or tubes or probably even audio. It's going to be some stuff about my other interests and hobbies. Maybe have some dolly videos. Maybe talk about my previous career in the car repair business more. Talk about some of my other hobbies, like some of the fast cars that I've had and still have, and just other kind of stuff that is going on in my life. And it's stuff that I really don't feel comfortable sharing on a public channel, given some of the comments that I have to end up censoring. And I just don't want to put myself out there completely about my whole life. And so it's probably going to be some more personal stuff that's on my members only content. And again, it's not going to be gating any kind of tube content or anything like that. The other thing I might give to members is because a lot of times I upload stuff like in an afternoon, or I'll upload it at 8 o'clock at night, and for some reason the videos seem to get more views or more traction if I release them at 3 o'clock in the morning. Don't ask me why, and people can see it first thing in the morning. I don't know what the deal is, but from experimenting at different times of the day, posting them at 3 seems to get more engagement, or hits the algorithm. I don't know what's going on. But what I'm probably going to do is the members will get instant access, and then just later in the day, the video will drop to the public at 3 a.m. So it's not really gating. You just get a few hours earlier viewing of the content. And I'm not trying to get people to switch from Patreon to this. Either one's the same. I just kind of struggled with Patreon's platform about doing member content over there. And it seems a little easier to just do it all on YouTube. But again, you're not going to miss any of my audio content by not being a member. It's just a way to support the channel and just kind of fun. Some people have said friends of mine that are members of other channels say, yeah, it's kind of fun to have a badge, and you get some little emojis to put in the chat that are fun, and just, yeah, whatever. So anyway, that's kind of it for this week. And again, next week, hopefully, I have some good info that I'm going to have from the Tampa audio show. And I'm hoping I'm going to have a really good time down there. I want to jump back on the 6C33C, get this done. I've got a lot of other projects that I want to do this year, but time just seems to slip through my hands, and being honest, I kind of enjoy being retired and just not being forced to do anything that I don't really want to. So I just kind of do this stuff as the mood strikes me, and I seem to be more creative when I do it like that than when I'm kind of under the gun to, you've got to do this. And so, yeah. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks to all you supporters, Patreon folks, people that make donations to the website, people that, help buy stuff for the channel, make donations at the website and all that stuff, because then I can afford to go buy some of these D3A tubes and see if I can make this stupid thing work. Sorry, I don't know, this thing's just frustrated me. But anyway, I kind of knew it was going to be a pain. But thanks to all you folks that are subscribers. We've hit 18K subs, which is cool. I'm really excited about doing some more stuff about digital stuff. And again, when I say, if you're looking for jitter testing and stuff, go look at Amir's webpage. He does all that stuff. We're going to do what it sounds like. And I do think there's a lot of stuff that isn't measurable that you can hear, and I'm not sure what all's going on with that, but hey, that's what makes this hobby fun. So that's it for this week. I'll see you next Monday for the Monday Monologue.